So there was research done about 25 years ago, and it needed to be updated, and she fortunately took charge of that and got this research updated. So kids were asked why they play, and somebody said it before, 9 out of 10, F-U-N, right? So then the next question is, what makes it fun? This is what the research indicated. Now we notice what's not there. The W word, right? So the big question is, with rankings of 1 to 50, where do you think winning was in the fun factor? What do you think? Pick a number.
25.
25, higher.
43.
43, pretty close.
48.
48, I give you the 20 bucks. That's the answer, 48th. Winning, ranked 48th. Amazing, right? So we have to keep that in perspective. Kids are not doing it. Now, they like to win. But after they go home, call their friends, they forgot about what happened. So we have to really keep that in perspective, right? So it's not all about winning, right? I know Ruben talked about parents sort of having different reactions, like if the team's winning, everybody's happy. If the teams are not, then they're not so happy, right? So we got to remember, learning is the goal. And sometimes having about a 50-50 record, so half wins, half losing, means you have to play to your ability to really work hard. I've coached teams, and we used to coach soccer teams before you get flighted in the right way, you win 10 games and lose nothing. Nobody learns anything. I would rather be 5-5 or 6-4 because we now have to challenge ourselves. We now have to try harder, try better, and see what we can do to get better. Winning 10 games in a row, by a couple goals is just, you're not learning very much. Not a challenge. All right, so now let's look at some data. Now, in the back there, you're probably going to have trouble seeing the numbers, but this is the female data taken off the NCAA website. It's the people in the back are no way going to be able to see this, so I'm going to point it out here. So for soccer, Division I, 2.4% of high school girls go Division I. Not a heck of a lot. Over here, 1.9 Division II and 2.9 Division III. That surprise anybody? And if anybody's really into that, you can get it off the website if you need that. Surprise you?
No.
Doesn't surprise you? Okay. Surprise anybody?
Seems low.
Seems low. Okay. But that's data. That's not like somebody's guess. That's like actually what happened. Go ahead.
I think it's higher.
Higher than?
I would expect that.
Oh, it's higher than what you expect. Okay. So it's important. Now let's look at the males. And actually the males' numbers are a tad lower. So since the people in the back can't see this, I'll read it out. So soccer Division I, 1.3. Division II, 1.1. And Division III, 2.7. So what's your reaction to that?
So what is this based off of? Just how many have applied to go in, or like how did...
They keep records of how many were accepted in, so they know how many high school students there were in the U.S. No, so they take the numbers of students in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
and then percentage that, then arrived at a D1 school, for example.
Got it. Okay.
Right, so it's based on real data. So what's your reaction to these numbers?
Is that total?
Say again?
High school, or is that the kids who played soccer in high school?
It's probably soccer players, because they probably wouldn't,
I would think so.
yeah, they wouldn't just take the general population. So those numbers look pretty low, right? So we got to be realistic about it.
Real quick, are those numbers that have been the same throughout time?
They've been up and down a little bit, and the best sport if you want to get D1 scholarship is hockey, by the way. So, sorry, we're just going to sell everybody out of here. Get out of here. Go get a hockey. A hockey. They're Ice hockey's 4.8, and I think actually, what? I think girls hockey had like 8%. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, it was.
What, somebody saw that it was 8%? Yeah, so that's pretty amazing, right? So we got to be realistic about it. Now, the interesting thing about D1 scholarships. Now, Ruben, we did the coaches program. I was aware of a number of 11.9 scholarships. So one of the coaches seemed to have some updated info. Did you remember the percentage?
9.9 on the boys' side.
On the boys' side.
He's done his research for
Okay, good. So basically what they do, let's just call it 10. I don't know why they 9.9, rounded to 10, right? And I used to be 11.9, I think. But let's call it 10, 10 scholarships that are per team. Now, a team has a roster somewhere between 25 and 40 kids. And we got 10 full scholarships. So what happens is the top 10 ranked players probably get a decent amount of money. The next 10, less than the first 10. And then the second half of the team gets a handshake and says, welcome to the team. So we should not be doing this for D1 scholarship money. In fact, what we'll find out right now is that there's 70 times more scholarship money available for academics. So everybody get out of here, go get your kids tutoring right now, right? Sorry, Ruben, we're destroying the program. So we have to be realistic about this. So most kids don't play in college. So let's pause for a moment. Let's engage in a conversation about this. So what's your reaction to this?
What's that? What's my reaction?
Yeah.
I never really thought my kid would play for a Division I school. I mean, that's not where my mind is.
Okay. Sounds good. Go ahead.
Huh?
I think he'll play.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you guys.
Oh, he says yes, you said no?
Her son.
Oh, you guys married? I do marital therapy too, in case. Just in case.
Same team.
Same team, just, okay, there you go. So, reactions to this, what do you think?
No, it sounds about right. I think most people peak, when they can in high school, and it's hard to get beyond there.
That's true, but again, this whole idea, go ahead.
I think what a lot of people forget is you're not just competing against Americans.
That is true.
It's international.
No, that is a true statement, and a lot of times they will give a little extra money to get that international person. So yes, that's a good point. So that's important. But just understand, this is not why we should be doing this, right? What's going to happen is, when your kid comes home from college, they're going to call their friends and say, let's go down to the field and play soccer, right? My 26-year-old just came home and called up his friend, and they went down to the field and played soccer, right? These are social activities. These are, you get in great shape. It's exercise. It's social skills, learning how to deal with things, learning how to deal with pressure and demands. And of course, the blown referee call, right? This is stuff you have to do, because someday at the job, you're going to have a boss who does something you don't like. And you have to learn that you have to control what you can control, which is not your boss. In the very same way, it's not the referee. So we got to keep this in perspective. Kids should be out there having fun. And as parents, we need to make sure our behavior is supporting the reasons why they're playing. It's for fun. When it stops being fun, it stops. And a large number of, I saw a thing this morning on the news, I don't know the source, but I think they said by age 13, about 70% of athletes stop. So I don't think we want that. We want them to continue. Exercise, socialization, activities, all that stuff. So we've got to be really careful. And as parents, sometimes we're going to find out soon how we can be not helpful. All right, so we'll get to that stuff. All right, so now what we're going to do is talk about the stuff that Ruben talked about. Here we go. So let's talk about some of the stuff that's challenges for kids. So perfectionism and fear of failure. Anybody have a child that's a perfectionist? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Now, keep it going, keep it going. We can probably, all right, so we got about 20% of the room. So you can identify with this. Now, everybody's got it to some degree because we're putting so much pressure on kids. In fact, I'm in a private practice most of the time. I do work at Rutgers University about 10% of the week. when I'm trying to schedule a client, sometimes, oh, he can't come in Tuesday because he's got wrestling. Okay, what about Wednesday? Can't come in wrestling, he's got soccer. And Wednesday, he's got soccer. Can't come in Thursday, he's got basketball. I said, when did your kid sleep? When does he do homework? Right? So parents can overschedule. We don't need to have kids in 3 or 4 sports. Now, the idea of cross-training in 2 different sports, damn good idea. But if it's 3 and 4, what are we doing? Not to mention the gas bill in your car driving around, right? And all the taxi services you have to get going. So we got to be careful, right? Let's not overschedule. We talked earlier, Ruben mentioned pressure and stress. That's part of it. There's no reason why a kid needs to be in 3 and 4 sports. So let's just keep that in perspective. So let's go back to this. So perfectionists have unrealistic and high expectations. They believe they can be flawless. I've never met anybody who is. But then when they think they should be flawless and they don't achieve it, which is going to happen every time, they mentally beat themselves up. And they go into I suck mode. Not helpful. You're going to tense up. If you play a sport tense, you're going to find out you're going to not be very fluid in your muscle movements. So if the mind is tense, the body's tense, and the way to make a good pass is to have a relaxed, fluid muscle so you can extend your leg to your target. If you're physically tense and mentally tense, you can't execute, so you're not going to play well. And you also, the more stress you have, the number one predictor of injury in psychological areas is stress. So if we're overstressing our kids, higher probability you're going to have an injury. And nobody wants to sign up for that. So let's kind of keep that in mind. So they're very self-critical. They're afraid to be perceived negatively. And to them, a mistake is a devastating phenomenon. And if they fail at something, they think they're a failure as a person. And what we're going to see in a moment, we need to correct this. And I'm going to give you some ideas on what to do. So those of you that have perfectionistic children, does this resonate with you? The pressure, the failure, and we define ourselves. So the big question is, what do we do about it? So, now anybody in the room a teacher? Raise your hand. Only one teacher in the house? What's the growth mindset?
It's believing that you can learn from mistakes and you can continuously improve.
Okay, good. So that's the reason why I asked is that permeates education. You got bulletin boards with it on it. You got weaved into different class lessons and things like that. So it's important, and we're going to elaborate on that more. So we're going to teach you the growth mindset and how you can use that with your athletes, okay? So the way to correct this is ask your child if they're perfectionistic or have perfectionistic tendencies to give you an example of somebody who is perfect, besides mom and dad. They won't agree with that. Think of an athlete that's perfect. Can you give me some data? The answer is no. So now they begin to think about it. Then the other thing we'll talk about is the growth mindset. And I'll give you more information there. But basically, in the next slide, the growth mindset is an optimistic point of view that everything we do in life is a learning opportunity. That sounds pretty good, right? We're always learning. We're not failing. We're learning. So for example, the word fail, F-A-I-L, is broken into an acronym that comes down to first attempt in learning. Sounds a lot better, right? So now we have to figure out how can we get better at whatever that thing we're trying to achieve. First attempt in learning. And we want to take our kids away from anything about perfectionism and go towards excellence, which is being consistently good as much as you can. And we get there by regular improvement, practice, effort, and things like that. So let me just pause for a moment and let's talk about how you think you could use this. What do you think? I know you're listening 100% of the time. Go ahead.
I could use it whenever I, not just soccer, feel like it could happen.
Absolutely true. He said not just soccer. Absolutely right. Go ahead.
It could happen in like school.
Yes.
If I don't do well on a test.
If you don't do well on a test, how could you use the learning approach?
Like I could like try to like remember like what I did and like if there are certain things that I did well on the test, like I can remember how I studied.
Right, so you can think about how you studied. You can think about, did I do the study guide till I got it 80% right or 90% or higher, right? And did you get a good night's sleep, right? All those kind of things. So how can I make it better, right? So that's important. Other questions about how you can use this stuff? What do you think? How could you use it with your child?
Just the overall growth of the child in all aspects of their life.
Good. And think about, yeah, so school. What would you do in school? So what we talk about soccer tonight has applications to life and school. What would you do in school? Anything you want.
You know, if they don't perform well, you analyze why they didn't perform well.
Great.
Yeah.
And we learn, did you use the right strategies? Could you do better at it, more effort?
And you try to challenge them to fail and take it on projects that you know they're not going to do well in, but to try new things.
Okay, good. So to challenge, right?
By failing is a good thing.
Yeah, that's the learning part. So let's look at a chart here. All right, so this is a chart where on one side, think about it as a continuum. Fixed mindset on one end and growth mindset on the other. Now, reality is many people can be somewhere in the middle. But let's start where we don't want to be. So the fixed mindset is a belief that my abilities are stuck or static. I can't get better in academics, I can't get better in soccer. And when you think that, and Ruben mentioned this before, you avoid challenges, you'll give up easy, effort is pointless because why bother? And you won't take constructive feedback and you feel threatened by the success of others. So that's where we don't want to be, all right? Because that's not helpful. You'll underperform as a result. So growth mindset, we have a very positive point of view that everything we do can be developed, be it our athletic abilities, academic, relationship abilities, a whole bunch of things. And when we adopt this mindset, we embrace challenges, we'll persist, we see effort. In fact, the language you want to talk about a lot with your kids is effort. Put in more effort, okay? And they're going to learn from feedback and find inspiration from listening to others. So it's, again, optimistic point of view that everything in life is a learning opportunity. So here are some ways that you can basically employ some of these strategies. So we're going to replace failing with learning, right? Your team didn't win today. Let's talk about why. What did you learn, right? You didn't do a good job at containing that person inside the 18, right? Okay, how can we do that better? You took a shot in front of the goal and you leaned back, right? We know where that goes, right? It goes way up. So next time we're going to take a shot, we're going to be more balanced and drive the ball forward. So we're going to learn, keep on learning. Now, there's optimism built into the growth mindset, and we talk about struggles as not yet learned, not yet masters. Power of the word yet. You've not yet been able to achieve that. However, with work and effort and a plan, you have the ability to get there, move in that direction. Very important to think about. And it's important to praise effort, not talent. Now, Ruben mentioned the book called Mindset, Growth versus Fixed Mindset by Carol Dweck. In this book, it chronicles research that when they would tell a group, if I told this table, you guys are the best, you have the greatest ability, and you guys weren't that good, but if you put the effort in, you can be successful. When they put them to an achievement task, you guys do worse than you guys. Because if I don't, I get the pressure now. I got to show my talent. If I'm talented and I can't achieve, then I don't have the talent. Maybe the person was wrong. So praising the talent is not as productive as praising the effort. You put in great effort. You worked hard. I saw you working hard out there. You were working on your first touch. Really, that was very important. You worked on getting yourself open inside the 18 as many times as you could in the game. So that's really, really important. And always, since the perfectionistic tendency is, if I have room for improvement, therefore I suck. We don't want to go there. Room for improvement means there's an opportunity to get better. So we got to really keep that in mind. There's one more slide. Some more ideas on how to use the growth mindset. And again, you're going to get a PDF, so you'll have a lot of the stuff you can refer to. So on the upper right there, cultivate a sense of purpose. I want to get better at blank to become a. So I might be saying I want to get better at first touches to become a better soccer player, right? And you can fill in the blank there. And then the other thing is we focus on improving the learning process, not the result. We don't say, you got to go out there and score 2 goals. You guys have to win. What do you want them to learn? Right? How to contain somebody. How not to step in when they should not, because then they go around you, right? How to defend well. How to communicate, right? Especially inside the 18 when there's a ball going around there. Man on, all that kind of stuff. All right, so let's talk about performance anxiety. So as I said before, performance anxiety is the #1 reason why athletes come to see me. And the best way to see performance anxiety is this. You play great in a practice, significantly worse in a game. So there's what's called an optimal level of arousal. That translates what you're saying. And if you think about a bell curve with under-aroused here, just right here, and over-aroused here, performance is worse at the under and the over-aroused. It's the right level. And that's going to depend on sport. The arousal level in golf is very different than football, right? So it's got to be sport specific. So it's the optimal level of arousal. So yes, some anxiety can get you pumped, but when it's too much, it's destructive. And that's when it becomes performance anxiety. And again, graphically shown by practice performance pretty good, game performance significantly worse. So now let's talk about how it happens, and we're going to find out that parents contribute. Sorry to say. This is what I hear from my athletes. So performance anxiety starts, so anxiety in general and performance anxiety starts with a negative prediction about an upcoming situation, in this case a soccer game. We take the negative prediction and we confuse it with a conclusion, meaning if I think it, it's automatically true. The problem is the thought or the prediction is simply a thought. Didn't even happen yet. So you're trying to conclude something before it happens. We focus on past mistakes, and in the middle of a game, we focus on coach reactions, team, or parent reactions. And that's going to dovetail into the car ride home in a little while. So we have to be really careful. We want to stay out of our kids' heads. They got to be 100% focused on soccer, reading what's going on, etc. All right, so it's really important to understand that. And then when they focus on outcome, so if you have the conversation, yeah, you got out there, you got to win today, it's got really important you guys win and come away with a W, all that kind of stuff, that puts them in a performance anxiety situation. That's not helpful. That tenses the muscles. So when you have performance anxiety, the muscles get tense. You play cautiously, which means you're slower to the ball, slower to react. You don't have the finesse you have if you have a relaxed and focused mindset. So it inhibits performance. You perform worse. And then all this stuff tends to lead to overthinking. Not helpful. I once treated a golfer, a recreational golfer, who came into me, who when he took a swing, he went like this. I was like, what? I thought he was having a seizure. He wasn't. I said, what are you thinking about? My ankle, my hip, my wrist, my elbow, That's about 12 things he was thinking about. So that's overthink. You lose fluidity when you overthink. So I had to get this golfer to focus on 2 things, and then he could swing. So we don't want overthink, right? So we got to be really careful with that. So let's take a look at a couple of cartoons here. In the back, can you see that? Kid playing center field, parents calling onto the cell phone, right? You don't let your kids have a cell phone on the soccer field, right? I hope not. I'm standing up straight. So we don't want to have these kind of things being on the focal point of an athlete, right? Not helpful. Let's do one more. Time out. He needs a hug. Right? This is just cartoons to point out that we don't want them to be focused on that. This pitcher's got to focus on his motion and executing the delivery of the pitch. So we don't want to do that kind of stuff. Now we're going to watch a video. It's about a 4-minute video, and we're going to talk about it. And this video is about, they interview kids, what do they want from parents? So listen carefully.
All right, you guys ready?
I prefer that my parents, if I play bad, don't say anything. And if I play well, it doesn't really matter if they compliment me on how I play. I just I don't know, I prefer my parents to, not talk as much.
I can hear them like cheering me on, and I'm like thinking in my head, just shut it, I'm trying to focus.
My mom yells in Spanish, like, go, go, go.
My mom usually says, use the backboard. You should use the backboard. I get angry because it annoys me. I'm kind of embarrassed. She tells me to get in the position that my coach told me not to get in. I'm like, well, no. And then she's like, get in your position. I'm like, no.
I get a little tense when I have a certain score to get, and she's like, you gotta get that whatever score. And I'm like, ah. I don't like it when they try to push me even more, even though I'm trying really, really hard.
Coming from the coach's mouth is kind of better, I feel like, because your parents are there to support you and your coach is there to help you, you know?
You just start screaming, Valentina, run faster, make a basket. But I just start going slower every time when she says that.
The other people were like, wow, that mom is like really wanting her kid to win.
In my inside, you can't see it, but I'm inside saying, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Sometimes I just look into space.
I try to listen to them and then do what they say to so they don't start yelling again. I don't really want them to give me that much advice because then I might forget it all. Sometimes I get nervous when they yell and nobody else is yelling.
Sometimes it can embarrass me, like a lot.
Wait. What's going on? We're just trying to do this, but you want us to try harder?
Well, I am.
I'm not going into a game not trying my hardest. That'd be messed up. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Sometimes when you try to get the ball in basketball, you kind of think in your head that they're kind of gonna push you and you're gonna fall and hurt yourself.
They don't need to always be telling me what to do every minute of the game. They kind of just gotta let me play.
I love when you say it really nice. I got it, Mom.
I'd like to look back and I'd like to see you smile or give me a thumbs up. Mom, I wish you would be a little bit quieter. Say you played good and you couldn't get them next time.
When they smile and say good job. Mom and Dad, thank you for loving me. I love
Be my supporter.
when I'm upset, my mom and dad cheer me up.
Sometimes I forget about all the work that they do for me.
Be my biggest fan.
We need a lot of love. I want you to know
I need big hugs.
I love the snacks that you bring me. It makes me happy when you always encourage me.
Thank you, Mom and Dad.
Please just be my mom and dad. Yep, that's it.
All right, so what is your reaction to what you just heard? And be really honest. Okay, the truth.
I consistently said it to my daughter. Never had a conversation in the car, good or bad. Oh, great game or whatever. But that's what I would always say to her. I just love to watch you play.
Beautiful. Did you write this program or?
But the question is that I used to ask her is, do you want to play?
Now that's an interesting question. Is it for the kids? Good question, right? And if she says no, go on to the next thing. So great, other reactions. What are you thinking?
I agree with her. The WSA had a TED Talk a couple years back.
Okay.
And the guy said it. He
Okay.
said, just say to them, I love watching you play. So I actually added that mantra to my repertoire of things
Excellent.
to say in the car.
That's-
I mean, if they ask something, say there's always rooms to improve, and
Yes.
you did your best out there. That's all that I care
Right,
about.
and hopefully you had fun.
That's it.
All right.
My husband.
What's that?
My husband would say something different. But.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? In a minute, we're gonna do a car ride home from hell demonstration. You're gonna recognize your husband. Other reactions? What do you think? Reactions to the film?
I think a lot of it happens that way. I think that's pretty much how I have four girls, and they all think that.
That's how it went. Meaning,
In terms of the,
did too much kind of thing.
no, in terms of I think that's how they would react. I feel like my wife and I try and not be that.
Okay.
But
Yeah. So basically, what the kids are saying is this. Shh. Stop talking. Can you identify with that? You want to give an example?
It's kind of annoying, because my coach will already say what I need to improve on. So when my
You don't want to hear it for the 17th time?
because I already know what I need to improve on, and then my coach says it, and then I also hear my parents.
Listen to what he just said. Say it again nice and loud.
I hear the same thing repeated multiple times, and it just makes me not want to do it.
When you hear it from the parent for the third time.
Yeah.
Right. You guys hear that? Lowers motivation. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that really live and valuable information. Is there a question there?
So as a parent, taking this approach, love, get it, what happens when the kid doesn't believe you or questions you? You don't mean that. You don't.
Well, so then I would encourage you to say, help me understand what you're thinking. Now, understand this. Kids automatically assume parents, what they say, they discount. You're my dad, you're supposed to say nice things. So that's not unusual. But you can also, maybe they go to that thing. You're the dad, right? But then you say, well, listen, here's what I'm thinking. I saw the following really great things in soccer. You did this and this, just letting you know. And then let it be. Now, what happens is with self-esteem, things like that, if you have a coach, a teacher, somebody in the neighborhood that said, hey, I really saw your son or daughter do this great thing, you say, great, do me a favor, go tell them. That's got 100% value. No discount, because that's not a supposed to. So that's really important. So yes, your kids are going to discount. That's normal. You do the best you can. So just keep that in mind. All right, so what we're going to do next is John is going to be my child right here. And I think they're going to pay him a lot of extra money to do this. So have a seat. Now, what we're going to do is demonstrate the car ride home from the bad place. So we're going to do that in a moment. Now, understand this. The car ride home starts with 10 to 15 minutes left in the game. And you're saying, what? That doesn't make sense. I'll explain. So I'm out on the field, I'm playing, I'm like, oh, we got 10 minutes to go. Oh, God, what is Dad going to say? And you start looking at the sidelines. His dad's doing one of these things, he's giving body language. So you begin to get distracted. The game's still going on. So you have to understand, the car ride has begun. He didn't even get in the car. And then what happens? So at the end of the game, you gather your gear, you're going, first thing you do is look to see, what's the body language of my parents? And they go, uh-oh, this is going to be a terrible car ride home. So you have to understand, they're looking for it. They're distracted by it. It is not helpful. And this is where most of the damage is done. And that's why I always include this in a workshop. It's the car ride home. Let me give you another example. So I've coached a lot of sports, so I'm always on a soccer field. When you go to tournaments, you're walking around fields. I happened to see this one father who was belittling his 12-year-old son. Criticism after criticism. You didn't do this, what's wrong with you? We're paying all this money, really criticizing. And at the end of the father's tirade, the 12-year-old said, Dad, I hate you. Was that the goal of that interaction? But we have to realize we can't live through our kids vicariously. A lot of times we have the shoulda, woulda, couldas. If my parent only pushed me more. If I had this other circumstance. And then we try to get our kids to make up for it. Don't. It's destructive to the kids. It's their life. If they don't want to play a sport, let it be. Life is bigger than sport. Sport is helpful in life, but it's not. Doesn't have to be your whole life. In fact, when I work with athletes, in particular this guy in the Red Bulls, I had to help him understand he's not a soccer player. He's a person who plays soccer. He's a son, he's a brother, he's a cousin, he's a friend. And he's like, oh wow, that just took all the pressure off. I don't just have to play soccer. So you have to inculcate that in your kids too. You're a person who plays soccer and any other sport you might play. Right? So keep that in mind. So let's understand that the car ride home starts before the car gets started. All right? So we're going to role play this. I'm going to be, I'm not this kind of person. I'm going to feel bad after I just belittle this guy. But just listen to it. Hear it. And then at the end, I'm going to say, John, how do you feel about my tirade? All right? So here we go. All right. Now we get here. Slam the door. Boom. John, this is just ridiculous. I bring you to these tournaments, I pay all this money, all this training, and you're not even motivated out there. You're not hustling, you're looking around, what's going on? There's some girls over there, you're looking at the girls, you're not looking at the darn soccer field. You don't know this, but every time I come home, Mom says, why are we spending all this money? And I'm saying, because he wants to play soccer. He's going to play in college. It's going to be great. He's going to get a D1 scholarship. And then you don't even play hard. How am I going to do this? You're causing a problem between Mom and I. What is happening?
Mom's an accountant. She should understand this best. The fool and their money soon depart.
What the hell does that mean? Are you dissing me?
I'm not dissing you. I'm simply saying, I love playing this game. You are not making it easy.
What do you mean? I just drove you an hour and a half to this damn tournament.
To do what?
That's what I'm asking. I didn't see you do anything.
I did plenty of stuff in there.
What did you do?
You gotta wear your glasses next time.
Whoa. Good actor. All right, what do you guys see in here? So let me ask you this. Have I motivated you?
I'm not sure if to punch you or to play better next time.
No, that's a good question, right?
That's what we're thinking about.
Right, so you're getting angry by this. I'm attacking you, I'm belittling you. As a parent, I'm thinking this is going to help. Do you think it's going to help?
Hardly.
Hardly. It's going to make it worse. Because now I'm going to be thinking about the car ride home on the field. So really think about that. This attack is just not helpful. It is the most destructive place, and I've been doing this for 30 years. In fact, I've actually done this with a parent who is horrible about this. I sat him on the couch, and I belittled him. He wasn't too happy about it, right? And it's important that you understand this hurts, does not help. Is there a question there, or you?
Oh, I'm stretching.
Stretching, okay. All right, so John, thank you very much. Well done.
Maybe go and have a beer now. I have to drink.
He's going for a drink. There's a hand in the back.
penalty kicks.
Yeah.
It's a problem that doesn't seem to go away. I see around this room there are many people who have asked, what do you do? How do you ease it down? It's just something that seems to bring too much pressure, too much adversity. How do we combat that?
So you're saying that it's the pressure of the penalty kick, or the kick doesn't go in? Fear of failure. So that's a mindset thing. So the best way to take a penalty kick, now you have to flush a lot of stuff out. So let's go with the not helpful way. Think about the outcome. If I make it, we win. If I don't, we lose, right? You want to not focus on coach reactions, team reactions. You have to simply focus on, think about the ball, and think about it's like a workbench. This is my workbench, my focal point, right? So I'm going to take whatever steps I take back, and then I'm going to go and strike the ball. Now you also have to be careful. You don't want to do this because the ball's going up, right? So you want to just get them focused on how to execute the penalty kick, right? So most coaches, Ruben, you guys go for upper 90 or upper 90, lower 90? Lower in the corner. Okay, either one, right? So then that's the goal, is to strike it. And you have to focus on how to strike it. So what you do is you pick your spot, because the goalie is supposed to be in the middle, right? You pick your spot and you go and take your shot. So the focal point is simply on the how to execute the shot.
Thank you.
And we keep it simple. When we go to outcome is when we get tensed up. Okay? All right, so let me just do a couple more things. Oh, we okay on time, or we'll try. All right, so what we're going to do now is go to what can parents do? And then we'll have a little time for questions if you have any. So I apologize, people in the back are probably going to have trouble reading this. So the first one is the 24-hour rule, which means this: you do not discuss the game for 24 hours. Now, remember, 24 hours is not 12 hours. If the game ends at 8 o'clock on Friday night, 8 a.m. on Saturday is not 24 hours, right? It's 8 p.m. on Saturday. Now, what I have found that if a parent agrees to this, the athlete thanks me and says, I'm so much more relaxed in the game because I don't have to worry about the car ride home. This is probably the most powerful intervention I get to do with athletes. Convince a parent to have no conversation about the game. Let it go. Right? So that's huge. Huge. That's probably the single most important thing you can do. So with the 24-hour rule, we don't have any conversation about the car in the car ride. If they bring it up, say, hey, listen, love to talk to you about it. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Where are we going for lunch? Where are we going for dinner? What are we going to do later on tonight? Now, don't criticize coaches, right? Now, you guys are paying a lot of money, right? You got coaches, you got uniforms, you got a whole bunch of stuff. When you criticize a coach, it lowers the motivation of your soccer player. Why should I play 100% because I don't like that coach? My mom or dad says that coach is not good. Not helpful, right? And again, life skills, right? You may not like every boss you have, but it's your boss. You can't change him. And criticizing them isn't going to really help. So we have to understand, let the coaches coach. And if you want to work on the side with your child to develop some more skills, fantastic. But let them coach. Now, many athletes, and I think you said it over here, Mr. Quebec, you know what you did in a game, right? And you could probably figure out what you would do differently, right?
Yeah.
That's what should happen. We want them to self-assess. So after 24 hours, I would say to your child, hey, what do you think about the game yesterday? They're going to probably have a lot of good answers, right? And if they come up with 3 things, don't add a 4th and a 5th because you can't fix 4 and 5 things, right? So you say, great. So if you identified 3 things, what can you do in your next practice? Oh, I could do this and that. Great. That's what we want, improvement, right? So we don't need to bang them with feedback, right? All right. So as a parent, you can talk about helping the child be present, meaning doing the job you have. If you're a striker, you have one job. If you're midfield, it's a little different. Goalie's a little different. And talk to them about how do they do their job well. Right? If you're a goalie, you got to communicate with your back line, right? You got to know when to go out, when to stay. And some of that's coach information. So focus on the what they're doing and the how to do it. And as we talked before, give constructive feedback and stay away from outcome-focused conversations. We must win, we must score this number of goals, and try to have a positive relationship with a child. One of the things you want to ask yourself is, what do I want to have, what kind of relationship do I want to have with my child a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What do I want that to be? And it's not helped by attacking them with 27 things they did wrong. And just think back to that example I saw on a soccer tournament, a 12-year-old being berated by the father and said at the end, "Dad, I hate you." I don't think anybody in this room wants that, right? So let's be careful with what we do. Any last questions before we wrap up?
So if you happen to see a parent talk negatively to their own child about how they're playing and how terrible they're playing.
And this is you as a coach or a parent? Okay, right.
And you see a parent doing that to one of your players, what would you recommend?
Pull that parent on the side and say, "Hey, I heard you talking to your child. How did it go? And what were you thinking? Like, what were you thinking about? What did you want your child to get out of that?" And they're going to say, "Well, he's got to get better," and do all this kind of stuff. And then maybe talk about how that's really not helpful, because now, so you went to this great workshop with this sports psychology dude, and he said, "Don't do it," right? So try to give them some advice. Listen, it's better to be positive with your kids. They learn more. You don't want to have your child, have you as a parent in your child's head. It causes performance anxiety. Not helpful. If you want your child to do better, you got to let them play.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So the video you showed outside of the first speaker, most of the children were pretty young.
Right.
Right. So I guess my question is there a point that this behavior and encouragement and so forth, 24-hour rule, changes? Not so they can go play D1, but I'll flip it on you, right? So could you create a laissez-faire attitude with children that everything is rosy? Because that's not the real world.
No, so growth mindset and everything we talk about is not rosy. It is positively focused of what I can do to improve. Right. You're creating the improvement plan. So I hope nobody in this room interpreted what I'm trying to say as just rosy kind of thing. It's, we're going to say, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to grow? How am I going to improve? Well, so let me just say this. I want to be respectful of time. So I'm happy to stay here for questions if anybody wants that. If you all want questions, I'm happy to do that too. Any thoughts? Silence says you want to go, which is great. All right, so then thank you for being here with you guys.